adventure.
As the peanut butter would come down, brandishing a tree branch.
And you guys help me like fill that TTRPG hole.
I don't know, you do something narratively with the GM.
I mean, that's the way to go. Blaze of Glory.
Bit of a fop, just the kind of guy who shows up and is like, oh, women love me. And now he's not.
I don't know if the players fully figured it out yet or not. Nobody's asked me. Because DMs drive the games.
Oh.
I like the shirt.
Thank you.
Which is the perfect way to kick this off. Welcome to our Endless Rain podcast, where words flow out like endless rain. We have three new faces here with us. Hippie, Tobin, and Rodo. If you guys would quickly introduce yourself, starting to my right. Hippie, who are you? What brings you here?
I'm Hippie. I play in DT's Monday campaign of the Feyjammer. I currently play a level 6 barbarian, level 2 druid named Lucifer. They are an Asmar, and they don't like anything cute, beautiful, and find anything badass and ugly to be more attractive than the conventional styles. I've been playing D&D for a handful of years. I originally met both DM and Rodo through a campaign that I was DMing originally. And then I became an overwhelmed potato and passed that baton off to DT, and they've been killing it ever since.
Which is a shame, because we've been lost floating in the Underdark ever since.
Hey,
I've been
we'll
thinking
be
about
on
it.
our adventures.
No, Hippie, you are and were an excellent DM, and I appreciate you getting this all in. To the right of my right, Tobin. Who's Tobin?
I am Mark. I play the character Tobin. This is actually Tobin the 13th. Wait, this one's the 19th. Sorry.
19.
Tobin the 19th. Okay, his dad's the first character I campaign with DT, which is Shadow Obelisk / Lost Minds of Fandover.
Which is a really fun
Tobin.
campaign.
It is. Can't believe it's been over a year now.
Both, yeah. Been a hell of a long
Feels
time.
great too.
Yeah, it's been great. I played Tobin, a Harengon Paladin. His dad was the Bard, but he is an Oath of Ancients Paladin. We're all level 9. His dad basically kicked him out of the Feywild to, go explore the plains and mostly go help his old friends out. And he's just been a vibe at the party ever since. He's a little religious. He has a book about his dad's adventures, which are slightly embellished.
Slightly.
But it's all good.
Slightly.
Slightly. You can't see the bunny ears I did on my head because of the background.
And to the bottom right of everybody, Rodo, our resident dwarf mage and Feyjammer campaigner. Who are you? What brings you here?
When I'm not playing a dwarf named Rodo, my name is Adam. I go by Rockology Adam pretty much everywhere. There's no content behind that, by the way. I just like the sound of my name. I have been playing Feyjammer now with Hippie. Like you said, we started in his campaign and have moved over here. I'm enjoying it immensely. Rodo is turning into one of my favorite characters to play. It's his backstory. It just keeps turning into things that I didn't think it was going to be. Originally, I thought he was going to be a bit of a dandy, bit of a fop, just, the kind of guy who shows up and is like, oh, women love me. And now he's not. He is definitely stranger than that, but I love him. I don't think I've ever actually created related character sheets for a character before. And I was just telling you a little bit earlier, his dad and his sister have character sheets now. Because it felt like it was necessary that they existed on paper somewhere.
It's good to have a backup, especially where you guys are.
This is true. You keep threatening us with death, and we keep trying to talk to people.
You guys you guys love to make friends of enemies and to fail at it, which is great.
Yeah.
Great storytelling.
If one of them dies while in the Underdark, I think they should make a cameo appearance in Shattered Obelisk, since now that's where we are too.
Actually, if you think about it, the Shattered Obelisk
We can
guys,
run into each other.
you guys had a beach episode where you went to the Rock of Brawl in their world before they did, and the ones that were there got to meet some of the same characters. Captain
I can't remember,
Potamus,
but it was the giant space hamster that I made friends with.
miniature giant space
so did
hamster.
Lucifer.
Yeah,
Did you have a miniature giant space hamster too? I have one too. His name is Moo.
Do you remember Rue from the start of this season, where you guys?
That's who it was.
Yeah, you guys got to meet Rue too. He was with Captain Potamus.
Yeah, I made friends with Rue, and I was begging him to like let him at least make a spiritual appearance in one of our games.
It's not.
That was when I was gone,
impossible.
wasn't it?
It was one of the weeks you were. It was one of the weeks you weren't there. Yeah, there were at least 2 of you that couldn't be there, so we did the beach episode in Spelljammer. And of
It was a fun
course,
episode. Chill.
Grum, welcome back. It's good to have you here again. Grum,
Good to be here.
Shattered Obelisk, welcome. This week kicked off with an interesting question. At least 2 of you here, I believe, are currently in the process of making and getting ready to play Daggerheart characters, which would be Rodo and Tobin.
Yep.
So, more generally speaking, what's everybody's tabletop experience? So if I started in 5e. Before this, roleplay experience was like Final Fantasy games, a very old Hero Quest board game that I played in the 90s that no one would ever play with me nearly enough. We played it like once a year, and then it went away, and I was mad every time it went away.
That's not the videotape, right?
No, there was a game with a videotape, but it wasn't an RPG. It was something to do with like a graveyard, and you moved around and you played the videotape.
Nightmare. Whose time is it?
Yes, that's
I had one like that. I thought that's what the Heroes Quest was at first. No, I didn't do Heroes Quest.
now Heroes Quest is you have your like 6 preset characters. Zargon is like the dungeon master, and a pre-set up board where you just go around with certain levels, and nobody ever finishes it because it's so long and everybody loses interest. But D&D,
Does it look like a dungeon map? Oh,
yeah, there are.
I was gonna say, does it look like a dungeon map and the token, and you have the tokens like the trap door, or, like
Yeah.
staircases and stuff like that?
Yeah, like the tiles
Okay, I
and
played
like
that
the
at some point.
bookcases and all of
Yeah.
that is really awesome to set up because the visuals are insane. Like you get to set up all these minis and the little monsters, gargoyles and orcs. That part's really fun. That's why I loved it so much, and it was so disappointing that nobody would ever play with me to the extent I was satisfied with it. But now I have you guys, and you guys help me like fill that TTRPG hole that's in my soul. But I
Can I
didn't-
just say,
Calm down, Aerosmith.
Oh yes.
one of the best things about that game that I loved was at the midpoint of the game, certain tiles would flip.
I remember that, yeah.
They would be like, oh, you were running around a graveyard previously, but now here's the underworld in certain sections. And then some people who hadn't met a certain criteria would become monsters, and it would go from being everybody exploring this thing into almost a PvP scenario.
I don't think I ever got to that point.
Oh man, It was a little bit crazy. If you've ever played Betrayal at the House on the Hill, imagine that with like tokens that you move around a board. It was a lot of fun.
I didn't get into D&D actually playing it until 2019, I think 2018, 2019. And the only other thing that I've really done when I was getting into this, there was another person who ran, not Spelljammer, Pathfinder Space. What's Pathfinder Space situation
Oh,
called?
Space Jammer.
Starjammer.
Or Starjammer, thank you.
Yeah,
Starfinder or something like that.
something like that. It's Star something.
Yeah.
And I get to play.
Starfinder, I think it is. I think you're right.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's Pathfinder, but Starfinder. That's it.
Yeah,
So
Starfinder.
I got to play that a little bit, and then it's really all just been D&D from here, and trying to explore this game and all its things. And none of the other games, except maybe Pathfinder, really been that enticing for me to reach out and try, because D&D and D&D players are so accessible. It's much more easy to get a group of people together and say, let's play D&D, than, hey, let's learn Pathfinder or even 3.5 or anything else. Hippie, where did you start? What was your experience?
A lot of it's been just RPG games growing up, a lot of like Elder Scrolls and stuff like that. But when it really came to like TTRPGs, my first experience was D&D as well, 5e. But then I started learning more about all the other ones, Starfinder and everything. But one I actually ended up like GMing for a little bit and like got into, and I have the book, and I would love to honestly even like host more in the future, are Avatar: The Last Airbender tabletop role playing. Has a really neat system, but yeah, you get to make your own like bender or swords master and stuff like that. And that was one where I got into for a little bit, but kind of like what you're saying, D&D is such an accessible game that so many people know about and don't really need to learn or whatnot, as opposed to a new system like Avatar, or even the new Critical Role one you guys were just talking about. Where it's like you have to relearn like a whole new system, the character creation process and everything that goes in with that. So yeah, like I mostly D&D, but like Avatar and stuff like that. I just love the options for tabletop role playing and stuff like that.
Does anybody else have a strong experience with the start of D&D? Where did you guys start? Tobin.
Though I don't remember much of the rules or anything, I started on 3.5 with a buddy of mine who had every book. He was like he was the one who like introduced me to like anything nerdy, because I could never afford anything. Like he got me to EverQuest, go over to his house and play on his brother's computer until I got my own and stuff like that. But before all, it was also like video games, MMOs, Final Fantasy, Breath of Fire 3, Xenogears. That was my favorite. And then I don't know, I didn't play much of D&D. I joined the military, left home, and I played like a couple of games in between that, like, you know, somebody would have a book like we're on a deployment or TDY, exercise, something like that. And then I got out and I didn't think much of it because I was big into like World of Warcraft, but I started getting very like turned off by that because the game, like all the classes homogenized, no customization, big time sink for you know, very little payoff. And for me, I always loved RPGs for customization options.
I spent a lot of hours playing World of Warcraft as well, and it's so repetitive. Hey, Ghostlight Games, thanks for the raid. Welcome to our TT. Hey, that's a lot of people. That's 13. Bargrim and Ghostlight. Hi, guys. TTRPG's World of Warcraft.
How's it going?
I spent many hours. After a while, World of Warcraft just gets so repetitive and so grindy and so old. One of the things that attracted me to Ultima Online was there was at least some potential for running around in customization in the early days of computer type games. But Tobin, if I remember correctly, when we started this up, you were looking to spend more time in D&D and get back into like the mechanics of it. And that really was a year ago.
Yeah, I know. I being turned off on that, and then I really just kind of wanted to. Actually, took a couple of years for me to actually get a game to finally play. I mean, once Critical Role became big, Stranger Things, and COVID, those three combinations, like it blew up, and as you said, it became accessible. Like it was fun. Like, hey, I want to play a game now, and people are like, hey, we got a game going. Hey, there's a shop over here where like there's always like a couple of DMs running something, and great. I am excited for Daggerheart though. It'd be the first system that I've actually like been like, oh, I kind of want to play that outside of D&D.
Have you made your character yet?
I have a couple of characters, and next I'll do my first adventure to try it out. I have the PDF version, and I think my physical course set comes in tomorrow.
Okay, I've like speed read the SRD to try to get up to date. Speaking of player characters, because Roto, I know that you've made some as well. Real quick, what's your experience with tabletop role-playing games? Where did you enter?
So, my original entry point was with the Robotech role-playing game when I was a teenager. A friend's older brother had it and introduced us to it. I knew D&D was a thing. I never got an opportunity to play it. Then still in my teens, I tried a wrestling stable management tabletop role-playing game.
What?
What
was it called?
I don't even remember, man.
WWE?
I know that I would show up to my buddy's place, and he would have sent emails around to all of us saying, all right, this is who you're fighting this week, and you've got to prepare some promos.
Is this like a homebrew game, or is this an actual game?
I have no idea. All I know is that my buddy had it, and we had a summer where we were playing this every week, and we would show up and basically just yell at each other, and then play war with cards to determine how the match is going.
Can you give us an example of the yell?
All right, so no, you had to come up and you had to do the wrestling promo bit. That was the role play aspect.
That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm hoping for right now.
So I, at the time, was madly in love with a wrestler by the name of Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
I know him.
And like he would just with a 2x4 and walk down to the ring and be like, hello! And so I stole his battle cry and gave it to a guy who was essentially just a lumberjack. Like it was all plaid, jeans, work boots, but like the wrestling form of them. So it was all tights. And he was showing up with a big giant tree branch. Like, I think I actually called him Peanut Butter because he was Paul Bunyan-esque and I needed something with PB. And so Peanut Butter would come down and he was brandishing a tree branch. And then eventually, at some point during the match, he would bring out the tree branch and just smack somebody out of the ring with it. He never won, though. He was a terrible wrestler. Absolute terrible wrestler.
Aside from being terrible, it sounds very much like Brampt.
It kind of does. Frampt hit a lot of stuff with branches. Although we didn't call him Peanut Butter. Frampt being Tobin's character that did not make it. Instant killed by in the Encephalon cluster.
Yeah, the last one, no less.
Yeah. And then I stopped doing RPGs. I didn't do anything in high school. Didn't really do anything in university. I played a lot of board games and card games, played a lot of pool, played a lot of poker. And then when I got into adulthood and was looking for new hobbies. 5e had just come out, and I was hearing people talk about D&D being a thing. People in nerdy circles were talking about D&D being a thing. I found myself at a convention. I was there to play Catan, and there were D&D games all over the space, and I was trying to sign up for some and see what it was like. And the room I was in wanted people with experience, so I just asked them, like, how do I join this game? And they said, well, have you heard about Adventurers League, which was the learn to play system? I said no, and I went on the Wizards website. I searched up Adventurers League near me. There was one store that was a single bus ride away. Well, 2 buses, but a quick bus ride away. And I went, and that, honestly, my circle of friends right now is mostly people I met at that shop. You know, my closest friends at the moment are people I learned to play D&D with and have played a bunch of other games, and now we're, you know, convention buddies and gaming buddies, and that was 5e. So I've been playing that now for... So go ahead.
You've been in from the start of it then.
I was a little bit
more or less
late to it. Yeah, I think 5e came out in 2014. I started playing in 2015, very late in the year, but towards the end of 2015. I wouldn't say that I started with it, but I've been playing now for 10 years, 9 years. Long enough that I enjoy the game, but I can see that there are things that it lacks.
It's interesting that it's been able to maintain your attention for 10 years though. That's a good record.
I think the important thing, and I think this is probably true of a lot of role-playing games, is that it's not the game. I don't think 5e has this necessarily special secret magic to keeping me interested. I think it's the social aspect of the game that would keep me coming. So if we looked at our Monday night game and, you know, Wizards had done something that made us all pause and say, hold on, I don't think we want to support this model anymore, I would quite happily play a different system with the group we have than show any loyalty to 5e because of the model.
I think 5e is accessible. It's very accessible to new players, and that helps.
You know what? I think they've done a really good job at making it relatively simple to get into, but I think that 5e's biggest draw is market share. If you talk about tabletop role-playing right now, D&D is almost synonymous. And after the trouble with the OGL last year and talk about, you know, limitations and trying to turn more of a profit from D&D from, you know, their parent companies and things like that, I wanted to investigate other things. So for the past 2 years, 18 months, I'm still playing D&D. I have not stopped. I won't stop.
Are you playing anything else besides potentially Daggerheart?
Well, that's the thing. I have played some Lancer, although that was a few years ago in the pandemic. Lancer is a mecha fighting, a mecha action adventure. I've tried and attempted to play both 4E and Pathfinder, and whenever I play those, they immediately die. It's just like I'm bad luck for them. And I had one session of Call of Cthulhu, which again, we ran one session. It was mind-boggling, and then it fell apart. So in the last 18 months, I've been looking more at independent things. There's a game called Striga that I just ran at a convention a few weeks ago. I had never played it until I sat down on Saturday morning to read it for a Saturday afternoon adventure. And it was an interesting contrast to D&D. There's a couple of others I've been playing. One's called Home Mecha X Kaiju, where it's an RPG where you are making a map and then having kaiju come in and maybe destroy it. Maybe you're building it up, and it's, you know, you're using your dice and role play to defeat those kaiju. And then the one that I've really gotten into over the past little bit is about as far from D&D as you can be, and it's called The Quiet Year, and it's a map making one where there are no dice. There's a deck of cards, and you draw cards from the deck, and it tells you what's happening in this little world that you're drawing and sharing with your friends. Kind of a rebuild after the apocalypse kind of game. No dice at all. Well, dice for counters, but not for chance, not for anything. You have a prompt, you tell a story, you draw it on paper. I really like The Quiet Year, and actually one of the things that excites me about Daggerheart is that Daggerheart actually refers to Quiet Year when it talks about how it wants people to build the map that you're playing on.
And
I feel like I've talked a lot here.
I do have questions about your Daggerheart characters, but first,
sure.
I want to
move on.
I want to know what Grum's experience is with tabletop role-playing games. When did you hop in? What have you tried? What have you considered trying?
So I started playing in 2020. The first campaign ever was Descent into Avernus, never got to finish. And I went on a kind of hiatus, like right after that, just with work stuff and everything. But then I kind of came back with a really bad homebrew and DM. But once that was left, I went into Curse of Strahd for a while, and that I never got to finish. And then I just kind of bounced around a bit, between different groups, playing a few one-shots, tried a few different homebrews or campaigns, and long story short, none of them just worked out for a multitude of reasons, but got here now with this group and Van Delver, and yeah, a year later, or over a year later, and we're still going strong, playing the same group, same campaign, and yeah, I'm loving it. D&D is great, but I have been playing Pathfinder now for the last few months, which I really like, because it's the same, but it's really different enough too, to where it's like, okay, I really do need to relearn some stuff because it's not D&D. But also there's a lot, like, I don't know how to explain it other than just, it seems Pathfinder, the way the mechanics are, there's higher stakes. You know, like for example, the shield spell, very basic first level spell, gives you a +5 to your AC, as opposed to Pathfinder, it only gives you a +1 circumstance bonus, and you can't use it again for 10 minutes. So it's like, oh shit, is it really that good of a spell now, even though it's the same thing? So Pathfinder's been great on that front. Daggerheart is one that I'm also very interested in. Once I heard that it was going to be kind of like storytelling focused, I was immediately into it because I really enjoy role playing. I enjoy that aspect. So this one is just tell us what you want to do and then roll the dice. It's like, well, shit, 50-50.
It's
aside from
interesting.
that,
It's
other
interesting
table-
that you mentioned the odds, because one of the things I calculated out for Daggerheart was the odds. And if anybody's interested in that, it's very Daggerheart, as I break down the odds, is very much player must succeed. It's exceedingly likely for all player roles to succeed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
One
Grum,
that I really wanted to get into, though, that I know I'll never be able to because I'm not financially well off. Once I get the 40K to play 40K, I'll let y'all know. That's the one I really want to get into, especially after I've been like learning some of the lore, and like the orcs just kill me. Like the way that their magic works, and basically they believe it hard enough, it's real. So like I think the color red, it just makes things go faster because they believe it.
It's like smearing cheetah blood on the engines to make it go faster.
Absolutely. If it's red, it goes faster. That's it. So I started learning a little bit about the orcs, and then from there learning more about the other lore that is 40k. And like I said, if I had the money, I would be into that right now. Like, I wouldn't even wait. But
I don't know enough about Warhammer. It's one of the
I don't
most
either.
common
I've just
things
been
I
learning
see.
a little bit, and it seems fun. I've heard of battles going on for like whole weekends or days, just because like.
If you're into
players-
that, I can like slam you guys with monsters and we'll never stop.
Let us min-max and then we'll talk.
Bring it. You can't kill this character.
Yeah, right.
That sounds like a challenge. There's ways to break min-maxes because you can't be safe from everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. So with that,
Real
Daggerheart.
quick, there he's just no camera on right now.
Hippie, I think he reset to because his camera wasn't quite working right.
He was lagging quite a bit.
I'm assuming he's still there and can hear us. Hippie. Maybe.
I am back. Sorry.
There he is.
We're just making sure that you didn't disappear into the void.
Right.
Nah, I'm here.
The immaterium.
Okay, Daggerheart. Daggerheart isn't a D20 based system. It's got 2 D12s, and it's got a hope and fear mechanic. Ooh, I gotta readjust those real quick. Give me 1 sec.
Well, I would like to point out that the players get the 2d12.
That's true. The DM has a D20.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
DM gets it. What?
So
That's
I
just
find that
fair.
fascinating.
the players roll duality dice, 2 D12s, one representing hope, one representing fear. There's basically 4 categories of action rolls. You can 2 ways to fail, 2 ways to succeed, with hope or with fear. The DM gets the fear token, so every time somebody either succeeds with fear or fails with fear, the DM gets fear tokens. If a player succeeds or fails with hope, they get hope tokens, and that's like an in-game currency that they can exchange for actions, for bonuses. Looking over it, it's got some interesting mechanics like being able to tag team, and the advantage systems like giving a d6 to things. For the 2 that are about to start it, Tobin, what do you find to be the most attractive part of it? What's the part that makes you want to jump into it?
Well, it's a good question. I like it. Feels very seamless. Like, character creation is very simple for the most part, but still at the same time kind of free. Although it doesn't feel like it at first. So like, that's good. Another thing is I've just kind of started getting into the whole critical role. Like, I had like the Call Another D and Wild Mountain books. I ran.
Oh, you're
I've
cutting
only
in.
done a couple.
You're cutting in and out pretty bad.
I'll turn the camera then. Okay, is this better?
So. Say something and I'll tell you. So. I mean, you're still
I don't
cutting
know.
in and out. So
All right, like I said, our internet's shitty.
that's fine. We can still. roll
Anyways,
over.
I it doesn't seem like there's a lot of freedom with character creation because like you choose a couple of things and then you use words, but they all kind of add up in the end. And I've just gotten into a Critical Role. Like I have a lot of like Matthew Mercer's D&D books, like the Wild Mount, Call of Netherdeep, and Tal'Dorei Reborn books. And I'm a big fan of like his writing style and everything. I'm just listening to like the podcast finally, and it's like I kind of trust that he knows what he's doing, so I'm really looking forward to trying it.
Roto, what got you interested in it? What's your character? Who's your character?
I strangely default to a ranger for my first character for a lot of things. And for Daggerheart, it wasn't any different. I sat down and I knew I was going to make a ranger. But then the creation of it is slightly different. It's, I think what Tobin was saying about, it feels kind of limiting in the start. It's very, you pick your class, you pick your subclass from go, like you start with that subclass. It's going to feed into everything you do. You've set up all your modifiers, you're setting up your ancestry, and all of these things come with very specific features. You get this feature, you get this ability, you do this. But then right at level 1, you start to get choices. And there's the standard weapon choice and armor choice. I'm picking a ranger, so I've got a short bow and I've got leather armor. Very standard things. You could do this in D&D. But then when it comes to what my abilities are to start, I'm looking at 6 different domain cards and picking out 2 of them that I think are going to be useful to this specific character. So Cyan, who's my character there, he is very much the kind of archetype of the hunter. He hunts for a living. He, when people ask him to solve problems, he's going to try and solve them by hunting something. And that is, when I picked his abilities, what I was looking at. I was looking for abilities that would make me a more effective hunter, that would make me a more effective killer in some aspects. But then when we got to the place where your character creation is really more free, your background stories, your connections to other characters, which I love. I am in the Discord for this game that I'm going to play very soon, talking back and forth with the other players in this game about like, what connection do we have? Is it a short-term? Is it one where we just met each other? And some of them have generated really good stories in it. The background questions really made me think. And Cyan went from being a very standard hunter ranger to having this really not drawn out, but this really strange backstory that I've really grown to love now over the past couple of days.
So what I hear you saying is that a part of what really draws you towards it is character creation and the storytelling potential with friends.
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Okay. I do know mechanically, Grum, their critical hit is you max out the first die and then you roll the die again.
That sounds very 3D,
It I believe that is their critical hit system, and a critical hit when you roll 2d12 is any pair. So
it could be 1 as long as they're both 1. It's still a critical hit. There's no critical fails.
Which actually,
okay, cool.
Mechanically, this game is extraordinarily player focused, to the point that a character can't be killed if the player doesn't want it. There's 3 options for death. There is, you can go out in a blaze of glory and try to do something tremendous and then die. You can potentially try to roll to stay on your feet, and you can wipe away all your hits. and all of your stress. They have a stress mechanic too that
Oh my
wears
god, when are
down
we
your
playing
player.
this DM?
So if you guys wanted it, I would DM it. Hippie,
I want it.
Hippie, do you want to try to play
I am
this sometime?
already looking at the $35 on the Demiplane website right now, so don't even tempt me.
Actually,
I would absolutely, hands down, be down to be in this game.
if you go to daggerheart.com, you can find the free rules. That's what I've been reading over. It's the SRD. It's 135 pages. There's no art. You're not going to get every single option, but you can look at the rules and find them for free. And anybody strapped for cash, free rules are a great place to start.
I will always take free rules, man.
So
Thank you.
There's at least, I'm going to say at least 3 things that I would be worried about. In the Shattered Obelisk group, we have Nyx is a very stand back player and player character, right? She stands back. She's not.
Right.
This is a game without initiative.
Right.
When combat starts, they have a spotlight, and whoever wants the spotlight gets it. The players go first unless the DM cashes a fear token to move first. But there's no set turn order. The characters that want to go, there's rules for when the DM can go, but the characters that want to go just say what they want to do when they go. So if you have a shyer person, like Nyx might never take a turn in combat. You could have 10 turns and the shy person might never go. And the people that talk a lot, the more forceful people, the planners, they might go like 3 times to somebody else's 1.
Yeah, it's very much not for those who are of the more timid nature.
And yes, there is an option. There are optional rules in the SRD. There's an optional rules to try to limit stuff like that, but I think the more forceful people are still going to get more of a say, more of a go. And then I don't know.
So,
go ahead.
Just to answer that, in their playtest, Darrington Press did at one point introduce an initiative mechanic. It's still available if that was something you felt like your group needed. It can be easily found and used, and there are recommendations from Darrington Press that if you find your group needs initiative, use it rather than the spotlight tracker, like having something to organize your initiative.
I think some groups would need it more than others. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is one of my biggest stalling points for Daggerheart is the lack of initiative. I think you're right that every group has people of varying degrees of confidence, but also just volume. Like in our Monday night game in Phajammer, and I hope Deidre's player would not feel called out, but I know that I'm louder than she is. And I do honestly sometimes have to think about that if I'm trying to push really hard. Am I talking over her and limiting what she might be able to do? I hope not. I think we've got a good group and we've got a really good dynamic, and she is not a timid player at all. She tends to be very forward to things and moving the action forward, but I know I'm louder than her. And so under circumstances where we're not using initiative, where there isn't that control in there, I would worry. But on the flip side, I think that's part of what a game master needs to do as a referee for this particular system. As much as you are in the position of running all of the adversaries and kind of being the world speaks back to you.
It is rulings over roles is kind of how they do it. They do put a lot of stuff like into the game master's hands to adjudicate.
Yeah.
And I imagine if you have two loud players that want to do similar yet opposing things, you might need to make a roll to see who does what first, or they each roll and whoever succeeds better might just be able to go. I think there's going to be an adjustment period, especially from people coming from 5e and DMs coming from 5e. For anything to succeed, you need to have a DM base. The DMs are the ones that take it forward.
Yep, for sure. Absolutely. This is not a DM-based game in any way, shape, or form.
I think on that though, like having some kind of order with D&D and tabletop role-playing games, it's a chaotic game no matter what you're playing. You can never predict what's going to happen next with all the different players at the table. So I feel like, especially when there's combat being involved, kind of like what Rhoda was saying, is like, I know I'm a very, like, depends on my character really. I'm very into role playing. If I'm playing a quiet character that's reserved and doesn't know what to, he'll play that way in battle as well. And so it's like, I'm also kind of like teacher in the sense I like to push the story forward. So if I notice no one's talking, I get uncomfortable silences. So I will say or do something to push it forward. But with combat, there needs to be, I feel like personally, some kind of order. And that's where it's like, whether or not it's like an initiative order or in Avatar, in that tabletop style, in that system, they have different interactions or whatever. So each person essentially pairs off to an enemy or a grouping, and they have different combat systems based off whether it's a one-on-one or a group kind of deal. And I find that like where it's even like after one person's done doing their fancy little bending moves, then it moves to the next person, and almost each person gets their spotlight, you know, like each person gets that, almost like what initiative does. I just feel like sometimes initiative, it gets so drawn out, you know, especially when you have magic casters that have like 2 spells and a bonus action. You have the barbarians or the monks who have key points and stuff like that, where it's like initiative order can just get really tiring when it comes to combat. And I would rather just like any other system besides that would be a fun one to explore at that point.
Real quick.
So I want to talk.
Hold on, real quick.
Go ahead.
Tobin, who's your character? Who did you set for your main character when you played Daggerheart? What did you pick?
It is a clank bard named Jukebox.
You really like bards, don't
so
you?
I'm really excited. I do. I actually like leveled this because like the way you have to add in your own things, like your experiences, which are kind of like your own personal modifiers and stuff. As you level up, you get more and stuff, and it's like I feel like it's a great way to actually plan your character out play-wise, which is a problem I have.
Then you can spend hope to use those experience bonuses for rolls.
Right, like as long as they're like applicable to like the situation stuff.
Right, which
so like
kind of
like when we ask, kind of like, yeah, it's basically like ask you the DM like, hey, since my character is from the mountains or something, like, can I get advantage when climbing this thing or something? You know, like it's like that, except you already kind of have it planned out. Like my character's a climber. Well, I mean that's actually like one of the backgrounds, but you could be like, yeah, my guy was like a mountain or rock climber for.
And then if
related to climbing, you spin that hope and modifier, but the way forces you to kind of like play it out. And so with this character, I actually kind of like leveled him up to 10, put in like the experiences and like gave it actual thought.
So how did that start? I was talking about the death mechanic, right? Oh yeah, the player character can't.
Oh, initiative.
It started with the initiative.
That was originally what I was going to comment on before you asked me about the character. I think it's very weird to me, which is why I just like spur of the moment signed up for that like start playing campaign. Because I just want to see how it plays in real. Like I'm just very curious to see how it plays out, because I actually want to like be a player and a GM for this. But I'm trying to keep in my head, like it sounds so weird, I'm trying to keep in my mind though that it's the philosophy is that combat is no different than if you're like inspecting something or talking to someone. It's just basically another action, or just something else you do. And I think that's the philosophy I gotta keep in mind, and that's the only thing that makes it not seem so weird.
The spotlight mechanic is interesting. The hope and fear mechanic. What I would be afraid of is that everybody exchanging and saying with fear, with hope, with fear, with hope. I'm worried it would get old after a bit. Like after a month of handing in, okay, here's my hope. Then I'm not a fan of the DM having to have fear to make something happen. I'm much more of a fan of this is what the story needs, so this is what's going to happen. And DMs can not only have fear, they should be able to provide hope. It seems very adversarial with the GM a lot of the instances, because they're constantly cashing in tokens to actively harm the party. They're much more adversarial than I would say a DM in D&D has to be. It's a very adversarial system in that way.
Like, as
They
opposed
encourage you.
you just give the players a confrontation versus in Daggerheart, you're actively choosing when to inflict pain and damage.
Right, and some of the things, so for example, some of the things that fear tokens can be used for. We talked about the spotlight in combat. One of the ways that the DM can take the spotlight is cashing in a fear token, and that allows them to go. One of the ways that allows them to go. They can also go like after a player fails something, or if I believe if they succeed with fear, the DM can go. So there's rules for when the DM can go. There's very set rules for that. But like turning in a fear is like turning in my mind, little legendary actions all the time.
So that's how I view fear tokens as well. I wonder if it will be different when I actually play it and see what happens. But the fear token mechanics have very much seemed to me like legendary actions. I think one of the things that I'm waiting to really see in action are the fear features. They aren't limited to adversaries or monsters. There are environments and circumstances and settings where you have a fear feature, where you as the GM might want to spend a fear token to kind of crank up the intensity of something, or to establish a timer for how things are going in this particular dungeon, or to introduce something that wasn't originally part of the scene. And I guess for me, while I see the adversarial side of it, you don't necessarily have to make them very bad things. I think in combat, they're going to be very bad things the same way that legendary actions are. And I do think that that's an unavoidable part of the system. But I think outside of a direct fight in combat, I think they're going to have other uses where they give you the ability to kind of change circumstances for the story. I don't know.
Yes, that's how I feel about it.
I forget what I was going to say. Oh, silly me. I forget what I was going to say. I do remember another thing that I was worried. I ran the math out on the system on a 2d12 system with probabilities, because I was curious. With the d20 system, anything with a DC of 10 is like 50-50 until you add your modifiers. And yep. I ran out the math, and I said, what's the closest to 50-50 you can get? And they don't have difficulty classes, they have thresholds or difficulties. The math I have is that a threshold of 14 is 50-50. And then I ran out the other math because they have like a little chart, and they have like a 5. And if the chances of rolling a 5 are 97%. I don't know why you would ever do a 5. But and crits are always successes. So you always have like an 8.33 always said that chance to succeed.
Yeah. It's 1 in 12.
Yeah, it's 1 in 12.
D&D's crit chance is 1 in 20, and doesn't apply to everything. Whereas anytime you roll those duality dice for Daggerheart, a crit success is a possibility.
When I was looking at the monsters that they had in the SRD, most of them are 13, which is like a 58% chance to hit without adding modifiers. The hardest thing I found in like tier 4 would be like an equivalent to an AC 17 monster in D&D. It seems very much designed that the players are going to hit almost every time.
I don't know that D&D is not designed that.
I think it's designed, it has tiers to it as well, that you will increase the amount of bonuses you have as you go. In this one, it also increases, but not drastically. If you were given a monster out of your tier, there would be less of a chance to hit it, but for most of them, not. For most of them, it's still like a 50-50 shot, and then you add your modifiers on top. Like, the lack of a critical fail option really works to the player's benefit, too.
I have never loved critical fails. I understand why.
So much.
I totally understand why you have them.
I have a crit table.
But like crit fail tables drive me up the wall. Every time they come out, I roll a 1 and I cripple an ally, or I break my weapon and we're 10,000 miles from the nearest weaponsmith.
I don't like punishing them, but I just like the fact that they exist, and just narratively they make you look that much worse.
This is true. Yeah.
I was thinking. Go ahead.
I'll go ahead.
No.
I was gonna say, I'm looking at the adversaries right now. I'm looking at one of like the tier 3 adversaries, which is like for level 5 through 7. It seems kind of difficult. It's got a difficulty of 17. Its thresholds for HP are 20 and 35. So we haven't gone over thresholds yet, but that's just like instead of having hit points, you actually have literal points. Like you start out with like 5 or 6. If you get below your first threshold, you take off 1. If you get above that first threshold, you take off 2. And if you get past the 7, off 3 of those. And this one has 12. So it seems like, I don't know. It seems like it could be really easy or it could be really hard.
So it
also has a lot of features.
I have a 17 as a little over a 30% chance of hitting, and that's for a high tier monster. By the time you get to it, you should have enough bonuses that you're going to take it back like 3 or 5. If you take it back 3, you got a 50% chance of hitting. If you take it back 5 to a 12, you got like a 65% chance of hitting. It in my mind, it seems very focused on at least getting the connections, which might make the combats go quicker because you're actually hitting the thing and you're wearing it down. And the damages in this, like you said, they don't have hit points. They just have or hit dice like D&D. They have 5 or so many, and then you mark 1 off depending on the severity of the hit. So it's like a 1, 2, or 3, depending on how much damage that you do. So if it has a medium threshold of 7 and you roll an 8, it's gonna lose 2 points. Unless, I don't know, the monsters.
This thing's thresholds
armor?
are 20 and 35, so it does not have armor. Let me see if there's any humanoid things. That's Demon of Hubris. No armor on that.
I wonder if it makes a little more sense not to look at the highest tier stuff.
Because you're going to be at the highest tier when you hit it. A lot of the lower tier stuff is at 13, which is like 50, 80%.
3. This is for just the 5 to 7 kind of middle. There's not like any humanoid that wears armor. Let me go. It's one of the earlier ones. Archer Squadron. Let's see. No, it doesn't look like they wear armor.
So they might not have that ability to reduce the same way that the players do, because the players can use their armor to lower the severity of the hit. I mean, that's a really interesting mechanic. That would be a really interesting mechanic to play with. And you're not doing a ton of math to figure out the damages or how much health pools you have left. It's you have like 3 to 5 hit points, and you're only like chopping off 1 at a time.
Yep.
Pretty much.
It would be interesting to do. Looking at it, I have those like little concerns. Because in my mind, if this wasn't Critical Role, if this wasn't the famous people associated with it, it wouldn't necessarily be getting this much attention.
You're 100% right.
I will say,
that's wrong.
Aside from my Pathfinder group mentioning it, the only reason I heard of it is because of Matt Mercer's name. Just being real.
Oh yeah, he's
I kind of agree
great.
as well, to that degree.
And there's a question: is that's enough to get people in the door? Is it enough? Is the mechanics enough to keep them at the table? Because like all turning into fear tokens, hopefully you're a good improv DM too, because you got to figure out what unplanned thing happens.
Yeah, I think it's like Pathfinder. I mean, there's been plenty of people who tried to make their own D&D, especially who got upset, with 4 and even 5 to try to go off and do their own 3.5, and they failed. But Pathfinder had people who worked for D&D, and I think that just lent a lot of credibility in place. I mean, sure, what they're bringing professionally to the table, but I think just the fact that they're there lends ability to it.
I also just think it depends also. I'm sorry, real quick, DT.
Yeah,
this feels much more like a role-playing style tabletop game, like with like the feel of like when you die, you have the choice of going out in a blaze of glory. Like, how are you gonna do that? So it's like not only with like the improving DM and being able to like on the fly come up with something for both fear and hope stuff or whatnot, but also for the players to be able to really get that involved with their players, and also the party as well. You have to make sure that the party meshes with each other to know, kind of like how Rockology was saying, how he knows how Deidre works with like her characters and everything, so they can anticipate each other in that way. And so I think having a really coercive like party is really important to games like Daggerheart, where like if you're sharing a spotlight, you need to make sure that everyone can share that spotlight and there is no like main character energy going on or anything like that. because with this, it's people leaning on other people's role-playing ability as well as their teamwork to get through something without having an initiative order.
I will say this. As one of my favorite things to warn people about is that death is a real possibility and death can happen because death heightens it. Daggerheart takes that away from the DM, and that makes me a little sad. Because when
You can always have that power.
I haven't
with
gotten
you.
to that part yet.
one of the third death option is just the player stays alive, and if the player chooses not to die, you cannot target him.
Lane.
There's no death
DM
saves.
rules.
So
Yeah, say DM
really cool.
game is simple enough.
that's a session 0 question, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, look, guys, I know the game mechanics say you can't die if you don't want to, but
It's
up to the player as well. As you know, if I say I want DM to kill my character, but Rockology and sorry, I'm forgetting names, and Panda are both like, no, I don't want my character to die. I've really connected with this character. Then that should also, kind of like they were saying, a session 0 conversation of like, yeah, you can kill my character if you want, DM, have at it, let's go. But like, yeah.
I think there needs to be a bit
Yeah, I feel
of
like
reason as well. Like, so Daggerheart is already kind of like it's kind of focused on storytelling. All right, cool. If you're gonna say your character is not gonna die right now, there should be a reason. Why don't you want to die? What do you want to do later? If you're just like, oh, I don't want to die, like, me personally, I've never DM'd, but I would be like, yeah, fuck what you want. I'm gonna kill you.
So the
I'm gonna
problem
target you
it's like,
even
do you
more
have shit
now.
to do, or what's going on?
the problem is that if there's a disagreement on it, you're basically asking, and that's what session 0s are for, do we mute this rule? Do we see what happens when this rule comes up? But taking potential death off of the table, it takes away an edge from the game.
I agree. There needs to
I
be
agree
more,
100%.
especially if you're incorporating hope and fear factors. There definitely needs to be things that are going to evoke some sort of tension. Otherwise, your fear and hope tokens are just cash-ins. You know?
Some hope for death.
If you look at some of their campaign frames, like in the book, like one of them is like 1 or 2 of them look pretty like dark and like difficult, like with the real with death being a real possibility.
Yes.
Good. Let's play that.
You got me.
I am interested to see.
I was gonna
Go ahead.
just quickly. I was gonna say about that though, about the death. I feel like in every group I've been in, we've always been asked about death though. So I feel like it's kind of I feel like, it's like kind of the opposite rules of D&D, but at the same time, everyone's going to kind of meet in the middle anyways and ask like, hey, what's your feelings on character deaths?
I don't know if I asked you guys that, because I'm decently upfront with my groups that I just tell you that death is a part of the game, and if the dice are against you, or if you do something crazy like pick a fight with a big dragon, that your choices and the consequences of the dice have a high likelihood of killing you. Nullifying that where the consequences of your choices won't necessarily have the correct outcome, I think detracts.
Yeah. That's why I said what I said about a reason. Like with Echo, when Echo died in Shattered Obelisk, she came back, but there was a reason and there was a consequence to it too.
And there was a
So it
there
wasn't
was a
just
cost
okay,
to
here's
it.
life back. You know?
There was a cost to that the
exactly.
party hasn't
And
fully discovered yet.
Right, and it kind of balances
Oh, no.
out the stakes that way, you know?
Spoilers.
Yeah, the party don't know shit. The players know all, and it sucks.
I don't know if the players fully figured it out yet or not. Nobody's asked me.
I know what happens. I know.
I know what it
I hate
is.
to be a party pooper, but I do have to pop out for the evening. I do just want to say thank you, DT, DM, for having me here, and thank you to everyone for the conversation. I am sorry to pop out early.
Hey, it was our pleasure to
I
have you.
usually
It's all
am not
good.
available
Nice to
on
meet you.
Tuesdays. This was, it was a pleasure to meet you guys. I'm the one always in you guys' stream saying hi and adventure.
And
it's
So I hope you guys.
He's
Yeah.
granted people advantage
Oh.
before. He's granted people advantage before with the power
Yeah,
of the chat,
I'm the one
because
that
the
argue
chat
for
can do
you guys'
magic
advantage
things.
and stuff like that. I'm
My favorite
yeah,
other
so-
player right now. You give it that
Have a
advantage,
wonderful
yes.
adventure this Friday, you guys. I'll try to pop in. Usually I'm not available on Tuesdays, but I had some free time and I wanted to pop in and be able to participate with this awesome idea. So I will see you guys this Friday. Talk with DM and Rockology on Monday. And other than that, DM stream. Have a wonderful night, you guys.
Peace out,
See you
bro.
on Monday,
Thank you,
Luke.
Hippie.
Bye.
Good one.
See you on Monday.
Let
So,
me
if I
quickly
could
adjust. Yep, go ahead.
come back to the idea for a second, though,
Oh,
I feel like mechanically, if we remove the storytelling aspect of it, which sounds really funny to do for Daggerheart, but if you remove the storytelling aspect of it, all three of those options do result mechanically in the same thing, which is you are going to be removed from the situation. And I wonder if, and I haven't read through all the domain cards yet, and I don't normally start with clerics, but I wonder if this is because there's not really an easy, accessible resurrection mechanic. If I really didn't want my character to
No,
die,
isn't.
a cleric and a diamond, and I can come back.
What would happen at a TPK? What if the entire party goes down in Daggerheart? Do they just wake up later? I mean,
So,
is it a
weird
fade to
question.
black
I don't know
scene?
the answer to that. The only thing I know about the avoid death circumstance, because out of the three options, one of them is Blaze of Glory. You get an automatic critical success on one action, and then your character is gone, not revivable, can't come back.
Yeah, Blaze
You're
of
done.
Glory, which I like that as a mechanic, going out in a Blaze of Glory. That's cool. Now, the middle mechanic, if you go down and you roll a crit, you come back up fully healed with all your stress gone. That's very springy.
I think, I think the avoid death thing is you can't be targeted, and you can't move or act. I'm gonna have to look this up for a second. After your character falls unconscious, roll your hope die equal or less than the character's level. You gain a scar,
Which takes
which
away
can
a hope.
have. Yeah, so you go down and you don't come back up until a member of your party does something to bring you back up, or the party finishes a long rest. So you could be out for the rest of the day if nobody has any healing available.
Which, honestly, if you go down early in the combat and you're just lying there, that kind of takes away something too. You can't be hit, you can't act, you're just sitting there for the rest of the combat if nobody can heal you right away.
Hitting 0 HP in D&D is the same, right? If you die to the dragon's first pass of its breath weapon, and your cleric is busy healing people with other things.
That's actually why we implemented our homebrew death roll, so we could avoid the players not doing anything thing. Because it's just no fun. It's no fun just sitting out.
It is no fun just sitting out. I think that's why I like Blaze of Glory. You know you're going to die, but you get one big thing you can do. The risk it all chance. The risk it all chance where you can jump back up depending on a roll of the dice. That one I wonder about. I think rather than avoid death, I think mechanically that one is actually the stronger feature.
I think if I was a player, I that's the better option to take because you have a chance of getting up, staying in the action, or just being done.
Yeah.
Blaze of Glory. I like Blaze of Glory.
If Tobin, if you go down, are you going out in a blaze of glory?
Hell yeah.
What would your blaze of glory look like? Because you get to roll to do something like extra special, right? If I remember reading it correctly.
Blaze of Glory, you don't roll.
Take one
Automatic critical success.
Take one action. Yeah, take one action with which critics and cross through the veil of death. Please.
I mean, that's the way to go, blaze of glory. But if you're trying to mechanically stay in the game, trying to stay alive and on your feet at least gives you something.
Yeah, I actually really do love the avoid death mechanic. Like, I love that you get not only a scar, but you have to cross out a hope point, and you can't use it again unless, like, I don't know, you do something narratively with the GM.
There is a lot of narrative focused stuff that gives stuff, which is again why if you have a very good improv based DM who can come up with a lot of stuff or is very creative, there's a lot of good options.
I sent a gif of Tobin's Blaze of Glory.
Oh god. I'm curious.
If he's level 3, Jukebox is gonna use Fireball.
That would be a good Blaze of Glory.
Oh my.
He did say he made another guard, so.
Yeah, let me see. What is Fire bonus again?
Now, in addition to Matt Mercer, who's obviously the face of it, they picked up the two heads that just retired from Wizards of the Coast, Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford. And
Yep.
I'm really curious to see what settings they might do, because Perkins was like one of the major forces behind the 5e Curse of Strahd and had his hand in everything. So you could see horror settings or other settings. Hopefully they don't just recreate Barovia in Daggerheart, but
Curse of Drats.
no curses, no domains of dreads.
Screw that. I really need a nice, like, hardcore goth horror game. I need to feel the tension and.
Shall we play Masquerade? How does Masquerade
I don't know
work?
anything about it for sure.
How does Masquerade work? I don't know how that works either. I think that's a very roleplay heavy
I played it
game.
once. Yes.
I'm into role-playing. I've been wanting to work on my roleplay skills since I started Curse of Strahd, because I was kind of really bad roleplay wise, and the DM really did a good job of, like, storytelling and focusing on different characters at different times. So yeah, like, I'm all for it. Let's go.
Okay. I think Daggerheart will make me a better D&D player, like, as far as roleplay goes, and planning characters out better.
I think any experience with other systems will probably benefit you with every system, because it's just more experience that goes into the till.
Yeah.
That's actually a strange spot to talk professionally here, but that's actually true of a lot of things.
Yes.
Parallel skills improve everything. There's a reason that they used to recommend that professional football players during the off season or in their training, especially if they're recovering from an injury, would be encouraged to take up dance.
Yeah.
And when you look at language learning, if I really wanted to improve my English skills, one of the best things I could do for it would be to learn a second language, because all language learning is learning, and they activate the same pathways in your brain. So to go back to an earlier question, do I think that Daggerheart is the D&D killer? That's an interesting question. I think Wizards would have to royally screw something up for that to happen. I don't think they could lose enough market share for Daggerheart to take things over, especially because while Matt Mercer is going to be doing Daggerheart, a lot of the other, names and, faces you recognize, Matt Colville, for instance, right? He's still going to be doing D&D. He's got a subclass on D&D Beyond right now. I don't see him doing anything for Daggerheart because he's not part of that group.
I'm very curious if a part of their strategy is like getting Perkins and Crawford, very famous names. Mercer's a famous name. I'm curious if a part of their strategy is to try to expand out to the famous names as much as they can. Like famous YouTube channels like Jenny D and Pointy Hat and all those that have a decent sized audience, they've all got their copies, they're talking about it. So does it grow from there? There's going to be the fame push. At the end of the day, are the mechanics enough to retain people, or are they just going to like sit back and watch the better DMs?
I think it's really personal, to tell you the truth, because every tabletop and really just any system of entertainment, whether tabletop, digital, whatever, every bit of it has a drawing for someone. I don't think it would go as far as being the D&D killer, but like it's just gonna offer something different. Like D&D has enough to offer something for role players, and it has something to offer for people who just like to deal with like skill checks, basically dice rolls. So with Daggerheart, I think it's just focusing more on the player side of things and telling a story. Is probably just gonna offer that much to, especially for like new players who have never picked up a TTRPG before. This might end up being something that's much user friendly for them because one, can't die. Then also like you're telling your story. The DM is telling the overall, but ultimately your actions are being told by you all the time.
Or for any new player, I think the question is, who is the DM that gets them into it? Because DMs drive the games. If they know somebody that's playing Daggerheart or talking about Daggerheart and have somebody to run Daggerheart, they have a chance of getting into that. D&D is always going to be like the name brand TTRPG though. Yeah. So when people think about it, and it's got a massive fan base and culture. Like what?
Yeah, and all the IPs are, as well. It's very much marketed. Yeah.
What Daggerheart
I'm gonna go and say that is
or what Daggerheart monster is there that will be as instantly recognizable as like a mimic in culture? It's D&D has a huge mark on culture.
Well, yeah, and again,
here's the thing. I think.
Go ahead, bro.
I was gonna say, I think because it's so big, it's had the ability to invest more. Because you gotta remember, D&D is not the same it was when it first came out. It's more like the 6 different systems now. More like, kind of.
I mean, technically, 3 and 3.5 are different.
I was gonna say this is 5.5, so it's probably like
a lot of half systems.
That's what I was gonna say, like 6.
It depends. It's like D&D and AD&D, two different systems. It's
exactly.
Right. So they benefited from having anyone who's like all the best people in TTRPGs work for them. So I don't think it's just the name. I think it is like what they have. They do have a good system too. And I think they got that because their name has brought more money, and because they're owned by Hasbro, which is $1 billion corporation. But like I do think it is a good system. I think Daggerheart is probably going to be bigger than Pathfinder. I don't know if it'll be the D&D killer. I think it'll be kind of like probably the more popular D&D alternative.
So you think that it's going to have stick-to-itiveness, that we're still going to be playing it like 6 months from now or a year from now? Because that's my question in my mind.
Yes.
Is will people still be playing this system 6 months from now, or will they get tired of saying, all right, I succeeded with hope, so let me mark down a hope, and then I want to do my special, so here's 3 hopes in. I'm wondering if that exchange system will get old.
As long as they keep putting in like books and content, I think it'll
that's how it was with
and content that isn't too content that isn't too expensive, because I think a thing that turns me off from Pathfinder is when I look at all this stuff, like a lot of this stuff is really expensive. And there's like so many different like supplements.
Like, again, if you bring it out in the 80s and we're now playing in 2025 and it's still the first edition, we've only got a wizard and a barbarian and a rogue available, and then only one subclass for each one. Like, it wouldn't have lasted as long, because again, like, people would have gotten bored. So the constant additions and new campaigns, new subclasses, spells, items, whatever have you, like, that just keeps adding more value to the replay. It adds more replay value. There we go. Because it
has the ability to do that.
Like, if you look at video games, Baldur's Gate 3 released rather recently, and if they didn't keep adding stuff, it would not still be as popular as it is, especially with how much other stuff gets put out. It's the same thing with D&D. D&D has been going strong for so long, but it's not to say it's going to lose popularity. It might lose a little bit for a time, but it's like the stock market. It's going to keep going up and down, and ultimately, I don't think any of them are really going to lose players like that.
Do you guys think
especially a really funny player in this discussion who isn't the players or the DMs? You need people who have heard of the game and want to play it, looking for DMs who are going to run the game. But I also think that there's a point at which this is Wizards' place to lose this, right? Whether we talk about Pathfinder making a bigger push to get more cultural cachet and put themselves more out there, whether we talk even just about my own search for more indie-based games that are a little smaller and harder to find, whether, the other people around me who got excited for Daggerheart and other things like this all kind of comes out of Wizards and their parent company Hasbro's decision to take one of the things that made D&D special, which was the OGL, the gaming license, the ability to encourage people to build in your world, and to take that and to try and turn it into a moneymaker.
Let me ask
Preach.
Let me
I was
ask
thinking
you
about that
this.
earlier.
Let me ask you this, because Daggerheart, from everything I understand, Daggerheart came out with a more restrictive game license than D&D. So Daggerheart,
They did at first, I think they changed it, but
I don't know the specifics of that. But if they did, let's just say they still have the restrictive license. That's not giving the community something and then basically taking it away, as opposed to what Wizards did, where they had people coming up with all of their own modules and then say, okay, now it's all ours. Nothing you can do about it. But no, that was a kind of a dick move, in my opinion.
I think the community pressure pushed back WotC from going as far as they wanted to, which is good. It means that the community is involved and that they at least heard them there.
Well, that's good. Because that's where we got a lot of other stuff. Isn't Curse of Strahd like?
Curse of Strahd's like a very early on I think TSR created thing. It predates WotC.
Yeah.
It's old.
Well, I know Humblewood was not within. It was third party. And
A lot of that stuff is licensed with, like, especially the larger actual play, let's play groups that do stuff like Critical Role. Their stuff was all in conjunction with WotC, which is why you have it on like D&D Beyond and stuff. A cooperative venture.
God, never mind.
Guys, I need to hit the hay too. I am exhausted.
We're all old here.
I'll be honest. I probably got only like 5 more minutes because
I'm enjoying. I'll say
I
I'm
turned
enjoying
40
the
in like 9
conversation.
days.
There's nothing wrong with being 40.
Yeah.
I turned 40 in a couple months. 40 is
I'm
great.
well past that already, and thank you for making me feel old.
That's fine. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with being in your 80s either. It's all good.
You've earned that shit, man.
You know what? I think, kind of on the topic of Daggerheart, if I wanted to say something to end this, it's that I do think that our community, the TTRPG community in general, is looking to branch out. There have always been some options, and I think Daggerheart is just coming out with, enough famous faces behind it, with enough backing to have money to do things, to have the ability to pick up Cromford and Perkins, these things to have this. I really think it's going to have the option to be an alternative. And it's one that I don't know that I would give up the 5e game for it. If you are just getting into TTRPGs, you can still pick up, WotC's books at a real bookstore. I haven't seen Daggerheart at, Indigo or Barnes and Nobles yet. But you can walk in and you can pick. I don't know. I know Indigo, which is our north of 49 equivalent, does. But if I walk into a bookstore there, I can get the core books for D&D. I can probably get Curse of Strahd as well for that adventure book.
So they're sold out in a lot of areas, and some places can't hold on to them.
Sorry?
I said a lot of places are sold out on them. Like I got like a last copy from Barnes and Nobles before they were saying they're out of stock. So even Darrington Press on the website was they might have them again. I know Darrington Press, they were sold out and they said they won't get it may have changed, but they said to check back in July.
Yeah.
So it is a little hard to find for some, especially the core set, the one that comes with the cards and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I did see something about there being a card mechanic too.
So the cards are really interesting in that
when you choose your.
Sorry.
Yeah, basically what I was gonna say. It's how you customize. Mostly how you customize. I mean, you have a character sheet, but that tracks your HP, your stress, your items. But for your heritage, which is your race, your background, your ancestries, your class, subclass, and then your abilities, they all come in card form. And the best part about it is they have a card creator on their website for you to just basically homebrew your own stuff too, and it's more or less simple.
I would add to that.
That's something else I like. Go ahead. What are you gonna add?
So one of the things that I realized with the cards when I first sat down with the books with a friend is that the cards are really just your features in an easy to reference form. Like I said earlier, there's a lot more selection. You go in and instead of being told, okay, you are a samurai fighter, here's 2 things that you get. I say, I'm a Wayfinder Ranger, and they say, all right, well, here are 6 things, choose 2, and then you're going to be able to choose some more later. But because they come in card form, you're going to have more of them than you can use, but you can also swap them.
Eventually.
On a long rest, you can swap them around, but one of the things you can spend hope to do is to hot swap them in a fight. Imagine you're a wizard with your prepared spells in D&D, and you walk in and you have a feature that allows you to say, I didn't prepare this, but I'm going to bring it in and prepare it right now, but it's available for everyone. My ranger can swap between having, entangling strike or something like Hunter's Mark in the moment. It doesn't have to be when I woke up from my long rest. It's, I have the resource, I can spend the resource to bring this ability in this moment. Otherwise, the cards are, you could copy down the text of the card onto your piece of paper and the cards would be no different than the feature blurbs that you're used to seeing in D&D content books. They are just that, they're content references, except for this ability to collect them and swap them in and out on your character.
No, I
sounds kinda
misspelled
like
Daggerheart.
I
I
have
put
to
Dagger
go.
Heat. I just noticed on the topics card I put Dagger Heat. That's going to be the new system.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, Matt Mercer, tell him to change it.
Tobin, have a good night. I'll say this in closing:
Thanks, everyone.
if Daggerheart expands the TTRPG base instead of just fights for the same players, it'll benefit everybody because new players will eventually try other systems. If they all just infight over the same thing and no one grows it out, then all market share will shrink because you're not bringing anybody new in.
Yeah, I agree. And
I don't feel like
TTRPG genre as a whole. If there's only just one main one,
I thank you guys for.
That's why I got into branching out, was because I was worried that there was just one flavor and I wanted to try other things.
I'm glad you guys all came in to talk about Dagger Heat.
This has been a wonderful time, DT. I can't be here every week, but I'm going to try and be here every second week.
That sounds fun. I like that we all get to intermingle. If either group is still interested in Daggerheart when we're actually done, like with the story, which might be something we can all try. It depends where everybody's at.
Yep.
It's
I'm looking forward to trying it in the next couple of weeks and seeing how that goes. And then I'll have have all summer to think about it. But much like Idle Hands there, I've reached my limit. I'm going to turn into a pumpkin if I stay any longer.
Hey, thank you guys. I'm going to cut off too. Thank you for coming to the Little Endless Rain podcast, where we'll one day be rich and famous, and probably not, but we're going to pretend like we are, because we are all important in our own way.
Hey, look, I've got a Hello Kitty light mirror behind me. Okay, that's baller status, right?
I've got a Yoshi back here. I've got a Yoshi.
Nice.
See?
I see it.
I've got a Christmas tree because my son won't let me get rid of it.
You know, there's nothing wrong with your Christmas tree.
Nope.
You know what? There's not. It's even kind of the small and slender one, which my D&D brain looks at and says, yeah, that could be an improvised lance if I really needed it to.
You guys have a great night. I will see Grim, I'll see you on Friday, and Roto, I'll see you on Monday. Godspeed.
I will be there. Good night. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.